ICQ Podcast, episode 402, Rockall Dxpedition. Hello, fellow Amateur Radio enthusiasts, and welcome to this, our 402nd episode of the ICQ Amateur Radio Podcast, supported this episode by our monthly and subscription donors. In this episode, we join Martin M1MRB, Chris Mike 0 Tango Charlie Hotel, Martin Mike 0 Sierra Golf Lima, Frank Kilo 4 Foxtrot Mike Hotel, Bill Whiskey Charlie 3 Bravo, and Leslie Golf 0 Charlie India Bravo to discuss latest amateur radio news. Myself, Colin M6BRY, rounds up the news in brief. And this episode's feature is the Rockall Dxpedition, call sign Mike 0 Uniform Kilo India. Well, I say very importantly that we acknowledge our monthly and subscription donors who help us pay our way, our subscriptions, etc., to bring you your ICQ podcast show advert-free every fortnight. And all we ask listeners to do is, if you found value in what we do on our show, consider that by going to icqpodcast.com/donate, turn that value into a monetary figure, or take one of our suggested options and send it our way, which helps us out in what we do here on the show. So I really hope you guys can find some value in our show today and support us and help us out. Right, well, you're going to create that value now by joining Martin, Chris, Martin, Frank, Bill and Leslie to discuss and generate thoughts about the latest amateur ham radio news, including Phoning Home from the Moon and online ham radio bootcamp. As always, hope you enjoy.
Well, hi guys, and welcome to this episode of the ICQ podcast and tonight's news roundtable for episode 402. As the guys and I, let's carry on to 500. We've only got another 98 to go, boys, but we'll get there. Tonight, I'm joined by Mr. Chris Howard, M0TCH. Hi, Chris.
Hi, Martin. Hi, guys. Hello to all our listeners. 98 to go. Galloping along. It'll be there before we know it. We'll be talking about the 500th episode, which will be a big celebration. But I can't remember what I said it was going to be now. A couple of years ago, isn't it, I think? But that'll be great. Maybe more than that, actually. But yeah, that'll be great.
Around about 4 years, Chris.
There you go.
And also, hoping to get me into trouble as always.
No hoping.
Well, I know you're going to try. We have Mr. Mike Rothwell, M0SGL. Hi, mine.
Hello. Greeting. I'm going to have to say greetings, dear listener, because I got told off today for not using inclusive language. So, greetings, dear listener. Greetings to other podcasters on the group.
So you've been doing podcast etiquette today, then?
No, they told me off because I did a meeting and I opened with "Hi guys" or something like, "Hello guys, how are you?" And someone put their hand up and said, "I don't feel very included with that." I'm like, "Okay, I apologise," and I had to go to backtrack on that. And like, that was fair point of you pulling me up. You've done it in front of a lot of people.
Yeah, it could have been worse. It could have been me. And I go, "What do you want?" Yeah, no problems. Okay. Moving the other side of the pond, we got Mr. Frank Howell, K4FMH. Hi, Frank.
Hello. Is this London calling?
Well, you might not. You're not London calling. We're London. You're calling London.
I see. Well, Martin on this side of the pond and Bill may know this. We have a very popular old-time drinking song where you have 99 bottles of beer on the wall. Well, we're one down from that, but I suggest we pull one down each episode, and we'll get there sooner or later.
Yeah.
Frank, pull one down, pass it around, and then there's 98 bottles of beer on it. Is that wall? Is that right?
That's it.
Sorry, Bill. We also have Mr. Bill Barnes, WC3B. Hi, Bill.
Good evening, Martin. Good evening, everybody. Yes. Whiskey Charlie 3 Bravo CQDX.
Yeah. And last but not least, he's not there. He's given up. He's with us. He's given up the railway, but back in employment. Hi, Leslie.
Yes, I'm back in employment. I'm going to make a useful contribution to society, as I should say. One other thing I got to mention was a lovely lady in Walthamstow. She gave me this wonderful piece of birthday cake. It was absolutely scrumptious, and I did dunk it in my tea.
Oh, no surprise there, then.
Thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Leslie Butterfield, G0CIB. There. So let's get on, because I know Bill's got a hard stop, so we're going to push on. Artemis 2, the astronauts flying to the moon, could be phoning home with ham radio. This is one you spotted, Chris, earlier, and I know we had a little bit of a problem with the record last time and lost a very similar story, but interesting. If they're phoning home with ham radio, I wonder if they get phone patch in the States and whether you can still do it. But over to you first, Chris.
Well, so this news story from space.com talks about it's been 40 years since there was last an amateur radio operator on the moon. And how amazing would it be for us to make contacts, never mind EME, but actually, an amateur being able to talk to another amateur on the moon. So I think this is a great story. I think we've covered before, we talked about quite a few of the amateurs on this Artemis 2 mission, which is apparently due to blast off in next year, are amateur radio operators. So it's great that I know a lot of astronauts are, but it's great that tradition continues, and how imagine the pilot up hearing the moon calling. So I think this would be fabulous if we could do that. This story also talks about the first amateur in space was Owen Gary at W5LFL, who on December the 1st was calling CQ from the Russian space station. I think actually that might be true. Basically, he was the first one that was in. He certainly worked on the Mir space station. So and of course that continues nowadays with the International Space Station as well. It's great that I'm sure we've all tuned in before. Certainly some of the school contacts and others where there is quite an active amateur radio facility on the space station. So that's all good.
Certainly is. So Frank, the guys are going to have American call signs. So do you got any thoughts on this one?
Oh, absolutely. We have joked, or at least I have, in previous episodes about working Mars one day. Well, this is getting more and more real to actually work perhaps someone on the moon. Many hams, I'm not in that group at this point, do Earth, Moon, Earth bounce, and that's quite a popular hobby. So we've already got some hams who have the capability of beaming a decent signal toward the moon. Now, all but one of the hams on this mission is a licensed operator. The one who is not, the only reason she is not, she was preparing to take her exam, and then she had a change in a previous mission. And so she dropped the ham study and worked on her mission. So she may, in fact, get her license possibly before going there. So it would simply be really, really exciting. And if you just imagine taking a young person or a neighbor who's not so young, perhaps, to your patio, if you had the equipment to potentially talk to somebody on the moon. Now, that's different from your drunk neighbor that barks at the moon down the street, Martin. But this is actually, we'll be having a QSO to someone on the moon. And that's just fundamentally terribly exciting.
It certainly is, Frank. And you make quite a good point. And I was thinking about this while you were talking. You don't need HF. So to be an operator in space, you probably need VHF and UHF, in which case, and not a lot of power. So in which case, a technician license would probably be perfectly good for what they need to do. What do you think, Bill?
I agree. And yes, historically, these have been 2 and 440 contacts in the past. Yeah, I actually remember that first reading about the first QSO. It was from the Columbia back in December of 83. I was like 9, 10 maybe. It was STS-9. So it was one of the shuttle missions, because Mir went up in 86, but I don't remember them doing much radio as their downtime activity until 87. I remember that, and that went through 96 then. So there's been a lot of historical missions where they've been able to use amateur radio. But the idea being right now is 3 of the 4 astronauts are licensed. Hopefully the ARRS group, the Amateur Radio on the International Space Station, will get them those special Kenwoods that they have that are specifically engineered to be used in space under the conditions of space. Hopefully they'll get that into the Artemis, and then at that point there will actually have some possibilities, because it, like I said earlier, it's definitely the ultimate DX. There is the work somebody orbiting the moon.
Certainly would be, wouldn't it? And yeah, trouble is, I reckon there'll be a few people say it ain't real radio, but it will be, of course.
Or the great debate over the DXCC status of it, Martin.
Yeah, true.
I was thinking what the licensing will be for them from space. Are you allowed to use a US license in space? I don't know what countries' licensing are you using from there, etc. I don't know.
Yes.
Most times they use US call signs. I mean, even Tim Peake had a US call sign. So I'm guessing that because you're traveling on an American spaceship,
of course,
so you're technically under American control, you would use an American call sign.
An American flag flying over the spaceship, exactly. Yeah.
That would be my guess, and it's not meant to be. If I'm wrong, I'm sorry, guys. Leslie, what's your thoughts?
My thoughts, Martin, I think it's absolutely great. Get stuck in. It's good publicity for the hobby. And what can I say? Go for it. I'm gobsmacked. What more can I say? The only thing I would say is I really, really do hope they have a safe journey and get back safely. And, do the mission, whatever's needed. Have fun with amateur radio, because that's what it's all about. And then arrive home safely, please.
Yeah, certainly on that one. That's a good one. And, okay, I know that there'll be the doubters and the conspiracy theory people. They always reckon that we didn't go to the moon the first time. Now, I believe they did, and I'll argue with anybody my reasons, but not here at the moment. Martin, what's your thoughts?
I better bite my tongue then. I'm afraid I'm a skepticist. This is not the podcast to talk about that. I'm still not sure I totally buy everything that is reported by NASA on a lot of space missions. That aside, I want this to be real. I look at things and think, first thing is like I ask him, like, is it a requirement for astronauts to be licensed? Bill mentioned using 2 meters and 440. Now, 440 to me, in the UK, that part of the band would be PMR. So I do wonder how they sort of pick the frequencies, because otherwise, potentially you're getting, people using just PMR radios, even, they don't always have CTCSS and things enabled. Might be they might have some security guards with some very interesting conversations coming through their radio. But the questions I would ask is, how big an antenna would you need? If you're doing things like EME,
you would actually need very little. I mean, I've managed to pick up the ISS with a handheld, with a helical whip slung out the window. You don't need much at all.
But if the moon is further away,
UHF, yeah, you could. Yeah, you could increase it on the ground, but you're limited in space, so you can't have massive arrays.
But I'm thinking in space, okay, in space you don't necessarily need it, but we've tried EME, and you have a massive antenna to give yourself the gain you need. You can
do it with minimal equipment. Something like if you're going to do something like EME, low loss cable, 8 element with a couple of 100 watts.
Okay, so what would you think you'd need? My question is, what would you need? Let's say you've got an astronaut up there on or around the moon with sufficient equipment at that end, assuming it's mounted on some kind of spacecraft.
Yeah.
What would the average person? Obviously, you're going to need more than a radio or a handheld radio with the rubber duck.
Yeah.
People that want to use satellites and things like that, we have things like ARRL antennas or the you got the Elk antenna, the log periodic, effectively a small handheld beam. Do you reckon that and 5 watts would be enough?
I think you're mixing two things up. EME.
No. I know EME is it goes there and it bounces back, but the moon is sufficiently far away.
The thing is that when they put the signal against the moon, there is a moon surface. There is a very, very high level of attenuation, which is why the EMC guys need a lot of power.
Yeah.
You're not actually reflecting it off the surface of the moon. You're doing it directly to the aircraft. my guess is you won't need as much.
No, because theoretically, and we've just said, the moon is a big attenuator. Very little, you throw a lot at it, and very little comes back. Except then we also have the fact that VHF and UHF are line of sight.
Yep.
And there is not a lot apart from the Earth's atmosphere between us and the moon. Therefore, all right, there's not a lot to attenuate that signal.
No.
Therefore, a reasonable amount of power of somebody with an aerial on the moon, let's be honest, they will probably have.
I think it's doable.
Pointing upwards. Yeah, you'll have a Yagi pointing up.
I think it's doable.
Yeah, so do I.
And just to also add in there, if you read the technical specs on some of the equipment they took to the moon, they were running super high frequency microwave stuff at 10 watts.
Yeah.
And it worked.
Yes.
Now, they were using 45-meter dishes here on the Earth, but still, it was 10 watts.
Yeah.
Microwave.
Yes, all being all, I think it'll be a good one to keep a watch out, and it'll be a bit of fun.
Let's try it and see what happens. That's the proof in the pudding.
Certainly is, Leslie. Certainly is. Right, let's move to our next one. So in many ways, when I overjumped a news story more by accident than anything, the guys are correcting me because we were supposed to be talking about a high-altitude balloon launch. And, they're always great fun. Leslie, you had a little bit of a conversation with the guy, didn't you?
I did. And when somebody from your past and you think, hang on a minute, I know somebody that's involved in this. And I had a chap called Mark Harper. He's on my Facebook list. And I said, Mark, and I had a look at the project that he was doing. And I said, Mark, are you involved in this project by any chance? And I got a reply back, yes, I'm responsible for the radio tracking side of things, with a big smiley face. And then he sent me a nice reply, and he said, I'm sorry, I sent a reply. It sounds a cracking project. I will mention it on the podcast tonight. And he sent a reply. It is. We've done quite a number of them. We've used Arduino and Pitt's Pie in the Sky for some years. We usually tie in a week of lessons around flights, physics, weather, craft design, etc., and have some science experiments on board. Today, with our live stream interactive lesson platform, we engage with schools across the UK and beyond. Still waiting the stats, but the last live lesson we did was seen worldwide. So we had live stuff and pre-recorded bits all expertly mixed together while sat in the field in Welshpool. I'm sure there will be a video out at some point. Say hi to the ICQ gang. Have been listening from the late hundreds, and that was from Mark Harper. Thank you, Mark, for that little piece. Much appreciated, mate, and very good luck with the project.
Yeah, and I would say sorry, Mark, if I was almost missed you, me scrolling too quickly. Martin, you got thoughts on this one?
Oh, my head hurts. Which story are we doing? We're doing the balloon story, right?
Yes.
I was just looking at this, and this sort of stuff. I always like this sort of stuff, because it's one of these things that I always say that I want to try and do this, and I never get round to it because you need software and you've got to set all the interface up to make it do it. And my head hurts, and I haven't had a chance to do it. And then, yeah, I'd love to try downloading the telemetry from this sort of thing if it were to go this way. You read some of the stories. The team is planning 2 high altitude balloons. One we're running Habduino, which I guess is based on an Arduino. Some sort of help from Ambersat using LoRa. I don't know what LoRa is, but I've heard of it. And the other one, they'll be on 434 650 USB. I'd like to have a go at this, but they do mention that there'll be a number of schools watching this and they're live streaming it. I'd be interested in, 1, if I can watch the live stream, because I'd just be interested to see what's going on with that. And 2, I see these things, and I always think it's like the closest thing we had anything that was remotely exciting when I was at school was like the little turtle that you programmed in Logo, and this little glass dish sort of moved across the ground and drew a pencil on the ground. How cool would this have been to have watched when I was at school? Oh, I missed out so much.
Martin.
Hello. Which one?
Martin, I forgot to mention, they do have a website, and they did show one of the experiments where they had a camera and they showed in class the actual curvature of the Earth, and the whole class was, I'm not going to use my words, awestruck at this, absolutely. Have a look at the website. It's great.
Certainly sounds it, Leslie. Certainly sounds it. And Martin, yeah, we both missed out, mate. Me more than you, I think. Oh, dear. Chris, final words on this one?
Well, not much else to say, really. I mean, it's a great story. It's great that we've got kids getting really involved in these STEM subjects, and the fact we can use amateur radio can be involved, and using lots of different technology and getting kids really involved. I think is great. Hopefully, it will inspire them for the future.
Bit update, by the way, it launched today and it's down already.
It did. You're right. Between 11:15 Wednesday, 13th of May, 3rd of May.
Leslie gave the info, so I looked it up quick, and it's like, they reached 20 kilometers high and burst to the south of Shrewsbury.
That's what happens.
Hogmanay Hill Quarry. We've retrieved one payload from up a tree, and they're on the hunt for the other, and they found the other. Both payloads have been successfully retrieved.
Yay!
Yeah, but they look neat.
Yeah,
I missed the date on that. Of course, it went up on the 3rd of. It basically got up the day we were recording it.
Yes.
Oh.
Well, that's not cricket, is it? Eh? I'm sorry.
Has anyone got any helium? I've got some balloon gas from my daughter.
Yeah, we could do silly things.
I have to say, the last
let's send it up into space.
I have to say, the last time my local radio club tried ballooning, we all looked at this thing and thought, no, it's not going to fly. It's not going to fly. And what actually happened is we lost it. It just flew off at 30,000 feet, gone and never seen again.
Yeah, I had a similar experience as well.
Martin?
Yeah?
Martin, a comment, if I may. I've been involved with this at a local middle school. Put a couple of dollars in to buy some equipment and was there for a launch or two. And the chase team tends to be a different group than the people sending it up, although they overlap a little bit. I have not seen middle school students as excited as this group has been. The biggest problem is that darn balloon tends to get large. We have some of these little small party balloons, as we might call them here in the States, that go up. They're pretty easy to handle. They actually go up higher. But the other balloons that go up for a short period of time, because they go up and they burst and they come back down, they tend to be large balloons. And actually, they can get unwieldy if you have any wind at all. My second comment is is to the other Martin. And if you check the chemical content of that gas, it would probably be methane rather than.
Isn't that gas very easy to obtain? It's just eat a lot of beans.
I've lost it.
I was the scientific chairman of the.
I've got to say, guys,
decorum.
You're enjoying yourselves, aren't you?
Can I just say that Martin said he was hoping to get him in trouble? I think we're heading for that rating on the podcast now, aren't we?
Oh, decorum.
I think nobody's going to take us seriously very soon.
I think this is not going to make the edit.
I think it might.
Back to the script.
Yeah, let's move to our next news story, and I'll get it right again this time. 2023 online Ham Bootcamp is happening on the 13th of May. I did ask you, Frank, just in case you got it before, and I know you answered part of it. Anything else you want to say on this one?
The National Area Radio Society is one of the more active groups, from my estimation, in the U.S. They tend to do traditional things, but they also do some innovative things. And having an online version of the boot camp probably emerged from, our period of the COVID era. But I think it's exciting, and I think it will reach people who, for many reasons, don't want to get themselves physically in one location at one moment in time. So I think it's a great thing for others to know about and participate in for Saturday, May 13th. That's at 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Eastern time, and it'll be by Zoom. I think it's just a great thing.
Bill, what's your thoughts on this ham Bootcamp?
I like the concept, like Frank was saying. So this is the idea being that they'll get folks together for a day over Zoom, do some demonstrations and tutorials, get the new license holders to get them on the air. I love this concept. We should. I hope to start reading more about these going on around the world.
Yeah, I'd say good. It's always good to see people having education on those sort of things. Leslie, what do you think about online ham boot camps?
See how it goes. I've never attended one, and I'm open to the idea. Let's just see what happens.
Certainly. Well, I believe this group is very similar to our friends over in Essex, Essex Hams boys. So, Chris, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, so this seems to be people that have passed their either passed their exam to get the license, or people that are interested and just want to see what it's all about. And it's more of a demonstrations thing and tutorials thing. So it's something we try to do ourselves as a club. So since the licensing has changed in the UK, it used to be that to get your UK license, you had to do practical as well as exams to get your foundation and your intermediate license. But since the advent of COVID, and you can now take your exam using a distance learning or a remote invigilation, should I say, way of doing things, you no longer have to do those practical elements. Things like, for example, fitting a plug, tuning an aerial, that sort of thing. So we actually, as a radio club, we're going to put on an evening where we're going to sort of do this. So people that have passed their foundation could come along and even though they may not have done it as part of the training, I think it's actually good to actually get some hands-on experience to actually get that confidence. So, for example, one of the things you have to do is to actually go on the air and make a CQ call and actually have a QSO with somebody both on HF and on VHF. And unfortunately, not many folks signed up and we didn't bother doing it in the end, but I think it's a great idea. I think, people that maybe have taken the training on their own and then just done the exam and may not have that may not be doing it through a club, and therefore may not have any exposure to anyone that can help them or that can show them the way, even just for the first time having to go on the air on the radio. So I can imagine that if you're in that position and then actually having your first QSO on your own is quite a daunting experience. A bit like learning to drive. You don't get in a car and say, there's the keys, off you go. You sort of sit next to a driving instructor and they tutor you along and make sure that you're okay, and it builds that confidence. And I think this is a similar sort of thing. So I think this is an extremely good idea, but it's not long to go. So it's only a couple of weeks, isn't it, before this takes place? In fact, no, only a week, isn't it? After this goes out, this will be happening. So if you do want to do it, I suggest you sign up quick.
Yeah, I agree with you. Sign up quick because it's good. Martin, final words on this subject?
Yeah, I mean, I love high altitude balloons. No, I'm only kidding. I know where we're going on this. I mean, I read this. Sorry, I'm setting off now. I sort of read this and I thought, like, demoing what we can do to licensed amateurs, but it also says it's open to those looking to get their license as well. Either way, it's great stuff. It promotes the hobby. It helps people get interested, stay interested, perhaps try other things. It's a pity it's restricted to Zoom rather than sort of easier to use platforms, but good luck to them. Hopefully the start of bigger things, and it will help those either get on the air, find out how to get on the air, or to go on the air and achieve more. Whatever promotes the hobby in any way is a good thing.
Certainly is. So, yeah, good news. Right, there's a lot of US stories, but we do have one or two UK ones coming as well. The ARRL advocates for amateur radio as the FCC proposes changes to 60 metres. Changes to 60 metres, let's hope they're better ones. Bill, are you a 60-metre person?
I am. So this is very, very exciting. On April 21st, the FCC issued a notice of proposed rulemaking that deals with the 60-meter ban here stateside. Currently, we have 5 discrete channels on a secondary basis, and we're limited to effective radiated power of 100 watts. The FCC is proposing of picking up the WARC 15 allocation for 60 meters, which is 15 kilohertz from 5351.5 to 5366.5 with a maximum power of 15 watts EIRP. They're not talking about the other 4 channels and 100 watts. So in the past, the ARRL has asked for the WARC band plus keeping the 4 individual channels that aren't overlapping and keeping the 100 watt limit. So we will see. This thing will come out, and I'm going to put a comment in on it, supporting that we should get a little more power than 15 watts ERP on 60 meters, because it does during the day. Having a little more power would definitely give us that regional coverage we would need in an emergency. So I hope they at least change that part, at least give us a little more power to work with on that. Aside from that, this is the first time that they've talked about the 60 meters in a very long time. So it's very exciting. Comments are due within 60 days of the NPRM being published in the Federal Register, which could be any time in the next 2 weeks. So stateside folks that put a comment in on what the FCC wants to change to 60 meters, get that comment in.
Yeah, well, I think, Bill, it's a positive in one way, and as you say, a negative in another way. It's positive that if they're going for a common set of frequencies, the WRC 15 set of frequencies, the more countries go for that, it means you're going to have a worldwide where you'll be able to find people. And once you've got a worldwide band set up, then I suppose it'll be much, much easier to increase the power on for everybody, potentially. Frank, what do you think?
I'm in agreement with Bill. As a ham operator, I think this band is one that is intriguing. It's sort of situated so that it can have some propagation opportunities that maybe some of the other bands, the top bands certainly, and then the higher frequencies that now are popping due to prop conditions within the sunspot cycle. So it's kind of a band that has not been harmonized, and that's really what I think we're talking about, Martin, in your comments. We get harmonized with a greater part of the world, then I think it's going to be a more effective band. Now, if I take my ham radio license and put it in a drawer for a second, we share that band, and we're secondary users. And I suspect that what the FCC is looking at is, okay, what can we do to move away from channels to a frequency segment so you can tune between whatever, not have to be just right on a particular channel? Then if we did 100 watts there and you could tune all around, that's just asking ham radio operators to disobey the rules, because we will tend to do that. Not Bill, not me, certainly, but there would be people who would, and we hear them on the bands, unfortunately. So I can anticipate that the FCC was being very careful at constraining both the power and the antenna gain combination, try to keep hams from hurting themselves in terms of this band. That's just my guess, and that's supposition on my part in looking at it. So sure, 15 meters seems like it's kind of a weak power level, but at the same time, I guess that they were trying to help us be good citizens as secondary users to that particular band, kind of like we are on 70 centimeters in many cases.
Yeah, as I say, I'm hoping that at some point in time we get harmonization of frequencies anyway, which is quite important. Martin, I know you've done some 60 metre stuff. What are your thoughts?
I read this and it's sort of looking like the FCC are looking, as I understand it, to bring in line perhaps with the rest of the world. So other parts of the world might hear the US on 60 meters. That can only be a good thing. We have, I want to say it's channelized in the UK. We have spot frequencies we can use. Weirdly, we have to use upper sideband for 60 meters. I don't know if we have to, but people do use upper sideband, whereas 40 meters and below is technically everyone else uses lower sideband. But I'm excited for this. It would be nice to have a free tune band, but I can't see that happening. They mentioned that the primary user is I believe the federal government. I am curious what they might be using those frequencies for at the moment. And equally, if you have people that are using it, I should imagine it's not that easy to get people, especially perhaps the government, to shift what they are using in the band that they might have to make way for. I had it in my mind that 60 meters was something to do with the aviation, but I can't imagine they would have given us those frequencies if they were in use for aviation. But I don't know. Either way, I can imagine it's quite hard for whatever is there to move out the way unless there is not much demand for it. But I can only see it as a positive thing because it will bring it in line with other people in the world. And as Bill said, yeah, I think you need a little bit more power than 15 watts because, let's face it, you can do stuff with 15 watts. And I know there are people that deliberately run lots less, but at the same time, why make it difficult for yourself, especially in an emergency?
Yeah, I understood. I think in an emergency, all bets are off. So
yeah, it seems like an emergency, no one's going to quibble it. Like I ran 100 per week we do.
Yeah, in an emergency, life is important. Chris, what's your thoughts?
Well, not much else to say. I'm just comparing it to the UK 60 metre band. So we have 100 watts on a secondary basis, and our band goes from 5.258 to 5.4065. So wider than what's being proposed, because there's 5 spot frequencies currently allowed, and I think they're looking at the proposal will be from 5351.5 to 5366.5, so a much smaller range of frequencies and much less power. So it seems that actually I think our US colleagues are losing out a little bit here, because it's going to be certainly less power, and potentially less, certainly compared to what we've got in the UK, certainly less frequencies. So hopefully the ARRL they're making they're advocating for those changes to perhaps have more power, etc. So hopefully they will. Essentially they're advocating to keep the existing four. So they've got 4 channels in the US. So then they're saying that they want to try and keep those at 100 watts. So hopefully they will be able to be successful. We just talk about some of the benefits, particularly around emergency communications between the US and the Caribbean. So hopefully they will be successful, and they'll retain and get what the amateurs need.
Yeah, let's hope so. Leslie, I know you've done 60 metres as well at the club. So any thoughts on this one?
I have, and I used to use 60 metres in another life many years ago when I was a lot more fitter. But 5 megs, it's not used in the normal way radio amateurs would think. Let's say in the UK it would be what we would term inter-G communication, using low dipoles, that's dipoles below 1/10 of a wavelength, and your signal will be going virtually straight up to the ionosphere and then going down. It's called NVIS, and it's not a technique that radio amateurs really use. But if you want to communicate locally, and I'm sort of put that in inverted commas, that's how you would use that. It's totally different techniques from using, say, 20 meters or above. Totally different. Yeah, inter-G. Now, there are terms and conditions within the licensing, and I'm not going to do those off the top of my head, but I would ask people, if they're going to do it in this country, to refer to their licensing conditions, and that will tell them what power they can use, etc. So, because I do know those change over time. But that's my thoughts on it, Martin.
Yeah, all understood. And a lot of people have probably worked MBIS and not known it. Thought, well, I can't hear certain countries.
No, that's part of it. I mean, the analogy I use is if somebody, I mean, I don't play golf, but if you can imagine the guy hitting the ball, now if he wants to work DX, he fires it off a low angle and it travels, it travels way over. But if you say, no, I want to, that, there's a dead zone where the signal doesn't go, and by changing your angle, the signal goes straight up, you can actually work very much closer to you. That's the idea. I hope that analogy makes sense.
Yeah, no problems on that one at all, Leslie. And let's say all good. Right. Well, most people in the UK are aware, and other parts of the world, that we are about to have the coronation of King Charles, and special call signs are available to amateurs in the UK. Leslie, you wanted to run with this one. You go first on it. What?
Yeah, just a quick one. We're having a coronation, once in a lifetime event. If radio amateurs in the UK want to use the Golf Romeo prefix, there is a link on the RSGB website, and I can assure you, because I've done it, it takes literally a few minutes to fill in, like your call sign, your license number, and an email address. Click and it's done. And it's very, very simple to apply. And I promise the Americans, and I did say this, we're not going to put tax on tea.
You're going to get me into trouble again, aren't you?
Yes, absolutely. Sorry, I couldn't resist that one.
I know you couldn't. Okay. Martin, what's your thoughts on this one?
Do you know what? Coronation, special call sounds like this, I don't normally go in for them. And I'd be honest with you, I haven't requested one. But I always used to think, why would you just make your call sign a lot more complicated? And now it suddenly dawned on me that it is a call sign that is different. The UK, it is. We are an island. There are lots of us in the UK. It is relatively easy for those around us to work the UK, and there are plenty of us to pick from. It's not like we are rare DX or anything like that. If you've got a special call sign, MR whatever, GR whatever, then you are suddenly a slightly more unique. Therefore, you might be more likely to get contacts. People might be more interested in talking to you, either if you're calling them, or you might find yourself with a pile up because you have a special call sign and someone else doesn't. So there is bonuses to that. I can see that. Often we get ignored, but hopefully not. One thing I did check though, just out of pure curiosity, we've had the Victorian era, we've had the Elizabethan era. Sorry, I'm still bunged up in my nose. I've still got bad hay fever. Apparently, Charles's time is the Carolean era. How they get that, I don't know, but that's where it goes.
Well, that's interesting. That's interesting as well.
It's a national event, Martin. We're having parties, and if people want to do it, great.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I shall be on air, but it will be on much higher frequencies because I'm DJing. Completely different.
Yeah. Well,
You're DJing the coronation?
Yeah, but only in a local street. So I should be on air, but UHF. Yeah, I'm DJing for Charles.
Live from your local castle, it's Martin Rothwell.
Yes. Can you at least take a picture?
180.7, the pigeon.
well, there you go. So let's get back to things. Chris, your thoughts on this one?
I've got a vision now, Martin, on the Buckingham Palace with a DJ desk mixing console.
Wouldn't that be fun?
With a big Union Jack hat on his head. That's what's going through my mind right now. What was the question, Martin? Sorry. Oh, the coronation. That was the one. Well, so Leslie talked about how easy it is to apply. I have just applied. It took about 30 seconds. So I've got the option now of using R after the M. So it'll be MR0TCH if I want to use that during May and June, isn't it? So that'll be good. And I think it also says, looking at this article, it says that if you don't wish to apply for an OV, you can also use the suffix /23C at the end of your call sign again during May and June. So you don't, even if you haven't got the the NOV, which takes 30 seconds to get online, you can do that as well. So why not? If you want to give it a go, it might just be of an interest people that want to work the UK during that month. It also talks about special event sessions as well. There's a separate section where you can have a GB0R and 2 numbers, or GB4R and 2 numbers call sign as well, for people that want to use special events during those months as well. So all good. Oh, and one other. It says there's also a flagship special event call sign, GB23C, which will remain available for clubs and individuals to use until the end of June. So from the 10th of May, that will be available, but you have to apply for that, and I guess you'll get a time slot when you can be GB23C if you want to do that.
Right.
Well, I just thought of something. The Star Wars is getting involved on this.
Oh, I can see where we're going here. Go on.
Yeah, on the post boxes, they got C-3PO.
Oh, I thought you were going to talk May the 4th, but that's fine. That's tomorrow.
Oh, dear. Behave. Well, what I was going to say is, and I haven't applied for it yet myself, but if I were to apply, it could be quite a mouthful of a call sign, being MR1MRB/M/ was it 2C?
C23. 23C, I think it was. Sorry.
23C.
Makes you a unique station. Good job you're not doing it in Morse.
Oh, God.
No.
I'd have lost the will to live by the time I gave that call sign out. But, yeah. Anyway, let's see. Bill, does this mean you'll be trying to get some UK stations in with a special call signs over the next few weeks?
Possibly. I definitely am keeping an eye out for GB23C. That's on the list already for me.
That'd be a good one to get, I think, actually, yes. Yeah, I think if you, and I suspect the slots may have already gone, but I might just Google that to see how difficult it will be to get a slot, get a window to actually operate that station from the UK, because I think that's going to be a bit of a pilot if you manage to get that call sign.
Yeah, that's the one I'm looking for. So, and congratulations on hopefully a successful, safe, and long coronation. I'm dumping tea in the rivers. I don't know what else to say.
Well, are we in Boston?
Yeah, well, I'm a little too far. I'm 5 hours from Boston, so I was just going to dump in the river.
Actually, interestingly, I've just found there's actually the RFTB have got a Google spreadsheet for allocation of that GB23C call sign, and actually there's lots. So it's available throughout all of May and June. And from what I can see, there's only, as of the 3rd of May, it's only been allocated so far up until the 9th of May. So if you do want to get to use that call sign, then jump in quick, because that's going to be, if you want to get a guaranteed pile up, get yourself that call sign, talk to the RSGB and get it booked in, because that would be a bit of a, potentially an opportunity that you would be good. And in fact, the people that have got it until the 9th of May is the Cray Valley Society, which did the 2 Oscar 1 2 Lima, which was the Olympics in 2012 station, and they've got it in early May until the 9th of May.
They're
and
on 17-meter sideband right now.
Here you go. So they're operating right now. So get in there. And they're operating from the old Royal Naval College in Greenwich, so quite a historic location. So if you can work them now, brilliant. If you're in the UK and you want to grab the call sign for a slot during May or June, then you got a chance if you jump in quick and talk to the RSGB. I'm sure it's quite straightforward to have that allocated for a period of time.
I was thinking very quickly before I bring Frank in, and sorry, Frank, I kept you out in the cold for a minute. Maybe I could apply for it.
Okay.
Maybe I could apply for the call sign for the talk group.
Why not?
Because it doesn't have to be HF, does it?
No, not at all.
So we could run it. I might apply and see if I can get it for the talk group. But round here, Frank, are you going to try and get a few of these in?
Maybe. Bill certainly encouraged me to do that. What I may do, my portable ops team will deploy a couple of times in June. Obviously, at the end of June, we have field day. We also have a digital event. We may do a little portable ops event for this. And I'll tell you, I've got a little thing I've got up my sleeve with a tower-mounted antenna that's owned by the government that they used to use for government communications, but it's a very broadband antenna. That and a little power just might get us across the pond with ease. You've inspired me, Martin.
Well, one hopes so, Frank. One hopes so. So all good. So that's that one. Right, let's move to our last news story, and I'll try to make sure I don't screw this one up at the start. Air travel chaos looms as US keep 5G altimeter refit deadline. So, if the airlines haven't done it, we could be having some more disruptions. Bill, I'm going to pass it to you because I know we're getting close to your deadline. So over to you, Bill.
Yep. This was a exception that they kept 5G technology out from around certain airports here in the States. This is the old satellite C-band that they reallocated for 5G, which is why I took down the C-band dish. Because there's no signals there anymore. But anyway, it's the normal, at least to me, it's the normal excuses. You didn't give us enough time. It's been years. We're having a hard time getting the equipment. That's true. We're still experiencing a supply chain issue, specifically on electronics and microprocessors that are not. Pretty much, it seems like I can get anything off the shelf that is generic, but anything that was like specialized microcontrollers, microprocessors, I'm still having long lead times getting that kind of stuff. So I kind of understand that excuse. And they're just basically worried about the electronic altimeters on the aircraft failing because of strong 5G signals that will fool the equipment into not telling you an accurate reading of how far you're above the ground. Seems kind of important to me. So it's an interesting story in general, just because it's the two large industries, aviation versus the telecommunications industry, and they really need to get this wrapped up so that we don't have to worry about planes crashing.
Yeah, you're right. And I'd say a big difference when I was flying gliders just before I came into this hobby, and that's another story. The instructor used to tell me your eyesight is better than the altimeter at about 1,000 feet. But then I wasn't coming in at 200 plus mile an hour on a much steeper glide path. So, yeah, I think it is quite worrying if a lot of these companies haven't managed to get their planes sorted. And, if they don't get them sorted, they won't be able to fly. What's your thoughts, Frank?
We did a pretty good job, I think, in emphasizing the importance of this in a previous episode. And I certainly concur with what Bill has just said. Let me add this. We have a couple of things about this story that many of our listeners just may not realize. One thing is that, as Bill alluded to, we have two industries, communications industry and transportation industry. And here the transpo industry is very dependent upon communications of various types. Communications with air traffic control towers, for example, is very important. Well, we have a couple of things going on there with kind of my expertise, the demography of it all. You go back to when President Reagan fired all the traffic controllers because they went on strike against government regulation that said you're an industry that cannot go on strike. Well, they did anyway. He fired them. And the PATCO union, that was their union back in the day, was kind of busted. Okay, fair enough. But what that set off was a problem in managing air traffic control employees and employment. It's a high-stress job. We now are looming toward just not having controllers who are qualified. During the COVID period, they stopped hiring them. They stopped training them. They stopped certifying them. So you have this gap in the pipeline. And now we have airlines being asked to cancel flights as they're trying to get back into the air. So you got that one. On the other hand, you've got the Federal Communications Commission. And it's a left-hand, right-hand thing. Now, transportation has a cabinet secretary. The president can say, Transportation Secretary Buttigieg, you will do X. And he generally does that. On the other hand, the FCC is a commission, and it has commissioners, and there's a buffer zone where the president can't just directly say, you need to do this. It's buffered by that particular commission. And right now, they're deadlocked. They don't have a deciding seventh vote. So you've got a little bit of gridlock there between left hand, right hand making decisions. People say, yeah, but they're both the government. Yes, they are, but they're different agencies or commissions in the government. So our listeners may not, have that understanding about, hey, why can't you work this out? Well, they operate a little differently. It's like two modes that we transmit in. You can kind of hear sideband on AM, but you don't hear it very well without a BFO. So that's a real issue that we've got. The fundamental safety issue, and Bill alluded to this and articulated it very well. Industry will always, and did I say always, drag their feet if it costs them money, therefore profits, particularly if they're publicly traded, because they believe their mission is only to their shareholders. So that's kind of my characterization of this chaos. Now, we will see if, in fact, that the retrofit deadline is not walked back again. They say they're not. Personally, I hope they don't. I have no immediate flying plans, but one never knows. So we fly a lot by the seat of our pants and our eyes, Martin, but we fly in different kinds of weather. And if you start saying only clear weather flying is what we're going to do, you're going to cut out parts of the country that have lots of passengers for a week at a time when you got bad weather.
So, Martin, I've got a comment on this one, because I know we talked about this one a while ago when this one was first in the news. So the issue is with the radio altimeter on aircraft. So you're probably aware aircraft have got two altimeters. One is based on air pressure. That's what's used most of the time when you're flying around, at altitude. And that's based on air pressure, and the parts will set that based on the air pressure at sea level. You've also got, which is used much more closer to the ground, the radio altimeter, and that's used for precision flying to land the plane, potentially. And that's often used as part of some of the automation the plane's got. So when you come into land, for example, part of landing is to flare the aircraft. That means to raise the nose just before touchdown, just to slow the plane down, just to get a nice, smooth, comfortable landing. That's relying on the radio altimeter to know exactly where it is above the runway. Now, the issue is that it's believed that 5G could interfere with that, and that would be a really serious safety issue. Now, sometimes, a lot of the time, as you were saying earlier, Martin, pilots look out the cockpit and land the plane themselves. But I think what Frank was alluding to is when you've got bad weather, when you've got fog, etc., the plane can land itself, and that's what. But in order for that to work, it has to absolutely rely on this technology to be able to do its job. And if somebody's going to interfere with it, that's going to cause, a very serious problems. And I think that's why. But the problem is, of course, that because of that, the telecom companies have been told, no, you can't put your 5G masts anywhere near any airports, because that could potentially cause this issue. And the deadline for that is the 1st of July this year. And I think it sounds like, as the guys were saying, the aviation industry are trying to extend that because for whatever reason they haven't been able to get to change over these radio altimeters to perhaps be a bit resilient to these masts, and therefore you've got a conflict between those two industries. And it sounds like the government are digging their heels and saying, no, look, you have to. That's the deadline. If you miss it, and you haven't refit these new altimeters in your aircraft, I'm afraid they're on the ground until they've been fit. And that has to be that. The bottom line is, though, they can't fly these planes unless they've had this done. Otherwise, that is a potentially very serious safety issue, I would suggest.
Yeah, well put, Chris. Well put. And I go along with you. Martin, what's your thoughts?
I have very little to add on this. You mentioned that you weren't coming in at 200 miles an hour and your gliders. No, that was in the car park when he heard there was a fourth coffee on offer. You can't delay things forever. I'm surprising they aren't delaying it, or they aren't prepared to delay it anymore, being that it is airlines and there is obviously safety concerns there. But to me, it does show how much leverage giants like telecommunications companies, cell phone companies have, even when there are things like potential safety issues at stake. You would hope that the airlines would think, okay, our planes aren't compatible, aren't compliant, whatever, we have concerns about this, we're not going to fly them. But hopefully it'll be a sort of a kick up the backside to, okay, this one hasn't got whatever piece of kit it needs to get and they need to obtain it. The rest of the world seem to be okay. I'm pretty sure that we're using the same 5G bands elsewhere in the world, aren't we? If they can land them elsewhere in the world, they can land them in America, can't they?
Well, we'll have to see, won't we?
It's also a function of power. I remember from the original first time we heard about this, the 5G towers in the EU use less power than the American towers.
See, even that I don't get, because, you're using 5G. Like, my phone runs, a watt at most, something like that. Why would you push more power out of a mobile phone mast? You can run 100 watts out of a phone mast. I'm only pushing a watt back to you. I don't get why you would need more power.
It's the density of the customer base.
Yeah, I'm still going to get the signal out of my phone back to the tower through that.
It's also a function of terrain. It's a function of how they overlap the cells. It's a function of what kind of antennas they have. I mean,
you're trying to reach as many customers as possible. Sorry to interrupt you, Bill. So that's the fundamental is the density.
Yeah, the power flux density.
So why not turn the power down, put more towers in?
Well, that's the easy thing.
Yeah,
but it costs money.
Yeah, and I can answer that. N5WDG that works with me works for AT&T. He does 5 states. He does this. This is exactly what he does. He does the planning for that. And it's, as was alluded, you've got how much is this going to cost? What is our market share? And those are the two things, independent of the engineering. Martin, I mean, that, you're talking engineering, and I think we probably all get what you're saying and don't really question it. But it's the density of where their customer base is and their potential customer base. They'd like to get AT&T would like to get Verizon and T-Mobile and all these others. It's that. So they're planning these things with maps, and I've consulted with Thomas about some GIS issues and stuff. So when they plan these things, they are pushing more power out because it's cheaper. Ultimately, it's cheaper on a per customer basis to try to put more power out to reach that customer base. I'm situated between two towers. If I walk in one room of my house, it wants to ping one tower, and I go in another room, ping another tower. And I've said, Thomas, put another tower in. He says, I can't get it approved.
Yeah, the other function of that is in a lot of our communities, they have severe restrictions on where you can locate cell towers. So, for instance, a certain area might want to have another cell tower in there for appropriate coverage at lower power, and instead they're unable to get the permits to put it in. So therefore, they go on the fringe and turn the power up.
For example, in Madison, Mississippi, near the Lowe's big box store, there is a clock tower, and people thought, oh my goodness, what a wonderful thing. Look at what did it cost for that clock tower. It's not a clock tower. That's a cell phone tower.
Yeah.
But they made them dress it up to be a clock tower because that's the only way they could get it approved.
Well, they were hiding them in like the petrol station signs and things here, and because people were complaining, oh my God, it's going to cause all sorts of health issues, and like it's been in that petrol station sign for years, and you didn't know it was there.
Yeah, we used to get, don't use your phone in a petrol station because you could cause a fire. No, the antennas are often in a petrol station. Anyway, Leslie, last words on this one?
I've been listening with interest because I looked at a very similar subject about 10 or so years ago, and people said it was never going to happen, and I went, not sure. I think Frank has provided a very valuable insight as to the politics of it. Yeah, I get that. But my gut reaction is anything to do with safety critical systems, and I've worked on safety critical systems before. I would not like to be the CEO who signs this off. No. But that's only my own opinion.
Right. Well, it's an interesting one. And we just need to watch it.
Absolutely.
Right. Now let's find out what the boys have been up to. And unfortunately, Bill's had to leave us because he was on a hard stop, and we did that rather long, and I did screw up a few things. So apologies, Bill. But we'll find out what you were up to another time. You have twice as much to tell us. Okay. Well, let's work my way across the page. Frank, what have you been up to since we last spoke?
Well, Martin, I've been finally, after a number of years, getting people to do what they promised. ASU DR1X repeaters linked to a common WiresX room. We've got 2 online. A third will be installed on the day that this podcast drops. 3 more will come online in the next few weeks, as well as 2 more in Starkville and Columbus up here in Mississippi. We're not really allowing other nodes to connect because we want to keep our digital-only reliability up to a certain level, and they'll be stable. Hopefully, we may do that, add some more in the future. Next phase will be constructing a bridge for the WiresX room to YSF for this small intertie, but that'll be later in the year. So I've been doing a bit of work on something that's been hanging around for a while. I'm also completing 2 presentations for area clubs. One's on the use of web-based SDRs to be used as remote receivers in conjunction with a local transceiver. Now, those who are familiar with the free software CatSync know what I'm talking about. Remote SDRs based on a web model have really grown in the last few years. If you've got a lot of local noise, or if you're calling a net on HF, you can use these to cut down relays and things. So one presentation to the Jackson Amateur Radio Club will be on that. Another presentation to an area club is on optimizing horizontal HF loop antennas. As I mentioned before, Don Field was kind enough to publish an article in Practical Wireless on my loop. I've been working with another ham on my portable ops team, Clay AC5Z, on his 80-meter loop. He's got it among 4 tall pine trees, and it's just working much better than I expected. So I'll focus my talk on using Bluetooth-based antenna analyzers to directly measure the impedance at the feed point, but with the antenna up at the air, so that the element of height above ground, which appears to be pretty critical if you go back to Lawrence Seebeck's original modeling for the HF horizontal loop antenna there. So I've got a couple other hams that want me to help them design and implement them. It's a great single antenna to cover, in our case, 80 through 10 meters. So I'm doing a little bit of work, giving some talks on that. I've also had an interesting email conversation with Dr. Ulrich Rohde, M1UL. He wrote me about measuring amateur radio transceivers. That was after my CQ magazine article on my tools at Fox Mike Hotel, the Sherwood tools, as I call it. Dr. Rohde just discounts Rob Sherwood's work, and he sort of says that it doesn't measure it the right way and doesn't measure stuff to identify good radios, in his view. And that the only equipment that can adequately measure or conduct some of these measurements is made by, surprise, Rohde and Schwartz Company. So Rich Mosterson at CQ Magazine was invited into the email exchange, and he invited Dr. Rohde and I to publish our email exchanges in CQ, but Dr. Rohde declined. I was fine with it. I guess Henry Ford thought that only Ford made good automobiles back in the day, Martin. But, that's an interesting exchange. I had a lot of fun. I taught measurement theory for several decades. There are parallels in all measurement that uses true score theory. There are a lot of elements to what makes an individual think that they have a good radio. That's why I publish some of the interactive graphics and tables that Fox Mike Hotels, so hams and manufacturers alike can rationally compare some radios on several common metrics. And at the same time, they can place their own values on what's the most important part of a radio because they're going to spend their money or they're going to sell a radio. And finally, I've been following the development by the Chinese ham who goes by the name YU-BG2FX and his latest transceiver, the FX4CR. It's a 20-watt, very small, hold in your hand HF radio. Very intriguing. He had a fit in the start with some firmware issues and some actual hardware issues, and he's made a new batch of boards, and I placed an order for the June shipment. I look forward to seeing that. John AE5X, who's just a real solid person on POTA activations and on his test bench, gave you some critical feedback. You may find it surprising. You is a farmer by day. He does radio development with a nice little homebrew lab that he has by night. So you got to give it up for someone who is working mostly by himself and another ham down the road that they farm by day and create ham radio products at night. I look forward to getting that sometime in June, and I'll give an update. I've also been playing with a knockoff of the Mac HF transceiver designed by Chris, M0UKI. I bought mine from Connect Systems here in the States. It's kind of controversial because Chris put that out there as open source and kind of didn't want it to be for commercial purposes, but some Chinese companies took that and made it. Chris no longer sells his kits, or I would have ordered directly from him. I will say it's an interesting radio, a little SDR with a touch screen. It has oodles and oodles of adjustments you can make on. You can change and tweak most anything about a radio, more than any other radio that I have. I will say that. And it's been interesting. The first person I worked was a POTA activation in Nebraska. I was on 10 watts with an attic antenna. So it's a neat little radio, but it will probably become my permanent whisper beacon because I need a transmitter and a receiver at the same time that don't interfere with one another. And WSJTX in whisper mode now allows you to control a radio with a PC connected to it, and it will transmit on a time schedule on a given band. And then between transmissions, it will receive signals and report those back into the Whisper database. So I've been looking for a couple of years for a good solution. And this RS918 radio, as it's called, the knockoff version, is probably what I will use, with the PA being turned down to a half a watt. I'll combine that with an ATU-10 QRP tuner in automatic mode, and that'll become my Whisper beacon and receiver connected to an in-fed half-wave 80 through 10 antenna in my attic, Martin. And that's about what I've been doing since our 400th episode, Martin.
Well, you sound so you've been very, very busy, Frank, and very, very interesting some of the things you've been up to. I wonder if I can compete with what you've been up to. We'll have to find out in a while. Leslie, what have you been up to?
Hi, Martin. Well, apart from a bit of illness, which I've got over with, that's not a problem. That's done and dusted now. What I've been doing is going through all my old equipment and just making sure it all works okay and clearing out some of the, and I'm going to use that word, junk. It's gone, and I've had a clear out, and we've got a bit more space for more stuff to come in. But just having a bit of a sort out here, and making sure, some of the stuff, get rid of it. So it's gone. That's what I've been up to, Martin. It's got to be done, otherwise it just accumulates and breeds in the cupboard. What can one say?
Yeah. Sometimes you have to move it on, mate. Sometimes you have to move it on. The bad part comes is when you've moved it on, you think, I wish I hadn't have done that now. But,
I know, but hey-ho.
but it happens. Right. Mine, what have you been up to since we last spoke?
Not very much, actually, because I have been suffering from a cold that's been here with me for about 6 to 7 weeks, and it might just be really, really bad hay fever. I don't know. So I've not been done as much. I've been on the talk group a fair bit. It's been a bit dead the past few mornings. I have been calling out, but no one's been around. But I do sort of listen throughout the day as I can. Now, my soldering iron at work died. I have a little gas soldering iron, a little Portasol one that I've had in my bag. We're not supposed to use soldering irons because there's hot works and all sorts of stuff like that. But occasionally, you just need to solder something, and I typically take it outside, and I will fix whatever it is that I need in a hurry. And I have been looking at getting another one. Now, first of all, Martin, thank you for your message. I did get it. I didn't get a chance to reply, but I did have a look. I've got multiple soldering irons for various different things. I've got the high-powered soldering gun. I've got a soldering station at home. I've got a relatively high-powered gas soldering gun. It's quite big that I keep in my big toolbox. And, of course, who hasn't got an Antec soldering iron or two lying around? But I needed a little compact gas soldering iron. And I have spent so long trying to find one that sort of meets and ticks all the boxes for what I wanted to do. I think I've narrowed it down to like the last 2 or 3. And I went the other day to place an order, and helpfully it said, you're not allowed to get this delivered to your location. Why? I don't know. I'm a UK residential address in southwest London. It's coming from a company in Devon. Why they can't deliver it to me, I don't know. But that was frustrating. But yeah, that's pretty much all my radio time that I have spent doing anything with, or say radio, technology-wise. I do have to get back up on my roof again because my satellite dish, the LNB, the thing on the arm in front of the satellite dish, the plastic cap on the front has perished. And I replaced it. I put a balloon over the end of it. People might remember me saying before, but that balloon it lasted for 3 or 4 months, and the balloon has come off. So I've got to get up there and do something with it. But I do have a solution. I have a cap to go over the end of it. I might just want a bit of hot glue around it. But it's up on the roof, and it's sort of above the roof level of my house, and I've got to get up there to do it. And I really just haven't got around to it yet, because let's face it, everything I watch comes on streaming platforms. We don't watch live TV. We don't watch anything on any of the main channels. So it's not really that much of a priority for me, but I probably should have it working. So yeah, that's what's coming up for me probably in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, all sounds interesting, mine. All sounds interesting. And let us know which gas soldering iron you go for eventually. As I say, I did spot one in a shop and thought they were reasonable value.
Yeah, I actually had a look, and they had the battery ones.
Yeah.
They have a gas one. The battery was about 8 watts, so I did buy that, but I haven't tried using it yet. But
can I jump in on this one?
Go on.
Right, I do have a gas one. I have tried exporting stuff around the world before. Anything to do with a battery, they tend to get very, very funny about. And some carriers will do it, and some carriers won't. The gas one, just make sure it's totally, totally empty and not used. You could try doing it that way and say, no, it's got no gas in it.
Well, the trouble is, I'm trying to buy one. I'm not trying to sell one. I'm trying to buy it from the manufacturer on Amazon, and I can't get it delivered to my house.
Yeah, I get that. They're very funny about carrying stuff.
Yeah, I understand why they're funny about carrying for obvious reasons, but brand new product, you should be able to buy it from Antex.
Martin, let me throw in one more. I have one from Hako. It makes the moderately priced desktop ones, and it uses AA cells. And I've been surprised at how long those cells work. And if you're just doing wires, nothing heavy duty, I use mine. I take mine with me, and I don't keep the batteries in them. I put them in when I need it. It's worked well.
Yeah, so mine it's not so much heavy duty. It's like resoldering like XLR plugs and things like that, just audio cables when someone's pulled a bit too hard.
This would work.
But I have to do it outside, so that's why.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me that some companies go, we're not going to do that. I can see the difficulties.
Yeah, it's difficult, isn't it? Chris, what have you been up to since we last spoke?
Not a huge amount. We had our AGM at the Radio Club, our annual general meeting. So as the secretary, I've got quite a bit of work to do to prepare for that. But that was all good, all out of the way now. A little bit of HF operating as usual, and also likewise on the talk group. Talk group's been pretty quiet recently. I put a few calls through actually. I've done a bit of driving over the weekend, a few hundred miles, and put a few calls. No one was there, unfortunately. So that's going to look quiet, which is a bit unfortunate, but I'm sure it'll pick up. I've been quite busy. I've been over to Poland since the last episode. And back, and travelling around a bit. So I've not had a huge amount of time to play radio, unfortunately. One thing I've been doing, there's a little bit of computer work. So I did replace one of my computers in my shack, and I've also upgraded another one. So all my computers have now got at least 16 gigabytes of RAM, which is great. I think the one in the shack has now got 24 gigabytes of RAM, so that runs much faster. I've put a solid-state drive in there, which makes a massive difference in performance. So I've now got a Windows 11 machine. I've reinstalled SDR Uno from SDR Play, because the way that I operate, I've got my Yaesu FTDX 3000, and that is linked to an SDR Play RSP Duo, which acts as a pan adapter. And I use OmniRig to let me, so I can actually tune on SDR Uno, and it will tune the radio to the frequency that SDR Uno is also tuned to, and likewise the other way, I can tune the radio and it will retune what's on the computer screen. So it's quite a nice way of viewing the radio spectrum. You can click on a station and immediately work it. So that's the way I operate from home. And the computer is much faster now with the memory upgrade and the upgrade to Windows 11, and the fact I've now reinstalled a lot of things from scratch. So a brand new installation of SDR Uno, a brand new installation of OmniRig. I know for logging, I use Log Photo M, which also integrates with OmniRig. So the frequency is picked up from the radio, so all that gets automatically put into the log. So yeah, quite pleased, but yeah, quite a bit of work to get that done, but that's done now. So that's working really well. Apart from that, not much else to report, Martin.
Well, you've been busy, and sounds like all you've been having fun. So that's good news. What have I been up to? Well, I've been pretty damn busy, but not over on radio. You're right, the talk group has been a little bit quiet at times, but when you look at it every so often, I check the number of people who have been on, and there's usually a fair number have been on. So don't think because nobody's answered you, there's never going to be anybody there.
No, they just want to talk to me.
No, it's not that. I mean, I decided to do a bit of HF the other week, and I went up to the shack, and I happened to put my radio on, and a good colleague of mine called me, and we was on for 2.5 hours on the talk group. So the talk group does get used, hence I didn't do any HF, but that's another story. Okay, what have I been up to? Well, local radio, obviously, in the local area, a few locals I've spoken to a few times, and on 2 meters and 77s, and I've been on the talk group. Not as much as I'd like to, because I have been busy on other things, but I have had some good conversations on there as well. I've been playing a little bit with some electronics items, little small devices. I was playing with a leakage tester that I spotted a circuit on the internet for, and this leakage tester is really an LED, 3 resistors and 2 transistors and a battery. And the idea is you put a device across the leakage terminals, and if there's any leakage, the LED lights up. So if you've got a leaky capacitor, the LED will light up. Well, I got to 42 megohms, and I ran out of high-value resistors, and the light was still lighting up, so it's working better than 42 megs, so I was quite pleased with that. I've been playing a little bit with the RF probe I built, the audio probe I built, and I had a moment of weakness last week. I bought a spectrum analyzer, so going to be doing more work with that. It was a Signet one, Frank. I'm quite pleased with the Signet products, the ones I've got, so I'm quite pleased with that. I've had a Sotabeams filter.
I have one. I have one of those as well.
Yeah, they're pretty damn good, aren't they, Frank? But yeah,
I enjoy mine.
Yeah, I had bought some time ago a filter from Sotabeams, and just a filter unit, and I was going to do something with it, and it got put to one side and forgotten about. And I found it the other week, and I thought, right, going to do something with that. So I've ordered a couple of other bits and pieces to finish it off. Going to put it in a box, switches and that sort of thing. And then I should have a variable audio filter, which could be quite useful. I spent last bank holiday Monday at the Scout Hall with my boss, Dennis. We were doing little things up at the Scout Hall. We had to move a projection screen, which will be useful for us when we start training if we do. And we fixed the internet again where the fox or rodents have chewed through the cable. At some point in time, we are going to put dishes between the church, where the internet comes into, and the Scout Hall. Just run out of time for doing it. I also managed to fix a Eagle K200 FET valve voltmeter. Now, you guys go, so what? Well, all right, the battery's leaked inside and one thing and another. But I think the main reason the person sold it to me at the time was he said it didn't work. And I thought there can't be much wrong with it. Anyway, turns out there's a micro switch on the back of the negative lead. And if you put a standard banana plug in there, it doesn't push the micro switch. So the whole meter doesn't work. You put one which is slightly longer, it operates the micro switch at the back, and the whole meter works after I cleaned all the leakage battery out and one thing and another and just tidied it up inside. So beauty of that is it's got phenomenally high input impedance, so it just doesn't load a circuit. So instead of using a valve voltmeter, this is an FET voltmeter, and much higher impedance than even a digital meter. And last but not least, I've potentially got 2 club talks to do. Now, I'm waiting for confirmation of dates at the moment, but I've got a couple of club talks that potentially I'll be doing if we can get the dates and times right. One is in Kent, North Kent, I believe, and the other one is in Devon. So, I'm looking forward to those as well. So, things I've been doing and things I've got to do, guys. But that's where I am. So, all that's left for me to do, you guys, is thank you guys for turning up tonight. It's been a long one, but it's been very enjoyable and fun. So, I'd like to thank Mr. Chris Howard, M0TCH.
Yes, thank you, Martin. It has been a long one, hasn't it? But yes, lots of good stories to talk about tonight.
Yeah. I'd like to thank Mr. Martin Rothwell, M0SGL.
It's been fun. See you soon.
See you soon. Mr. Frank Howell, K4FMH.
Thank you, Martin. Enjoyed it once again.
Yeah, it was always fun, isn't it? And Leslie Butterfield, G0CIB. Thanks, Leslie.
Thank you for inviting me, Martin. It's been a blast. We've had some really funny subjects tonight. We've been rolling around laughing and had some serious subjects. Hey, that's what it's all about.
Yeah, no problems at all. And unfortunately, Bill had to leave as he was on a hard stop, so he didn't get to tell us what he'd done. So all that's left for me to do is say 73 to you guys, and we'll continue with the rest of the podcast. 73, guys.
Yeah. Cheerio.
73.
Keep your amateur ham radio podcast advert free by donating less than a length of coax. Visit www.icqpodcast.com/donate now. For all the news, links and information, visit www.icqpodcast.com.
But now it's time to have a look at the news in brief from me, Colin M6BOY. We start with news here that the US Department of Defense will host this year's Armed Forces Day Crossband test next weekend on the 13th of May. The annual event is open to all licensed hams, and it won't impact the public or any private communications. For more than 50 years now, military and amateur stations have taken part in the event. So it's a unique opportunity to test two-way communications between military communicators and radio stations in the amateur radio service, as authorised under, the 47 CFR 97.11 regulation. Test provides an opportunity to challenges for radio operators to demonstrate individual technical skills in a tightly controlled exercise scenario. Military stations will transmit on selected frequencies and will announce the Pacific ARRL frequencies to be monitored. All times will be Zulu. and frequencies are on the upper sideband unless otherwise noted. So it's a great opportunity here to take part in this event. As always, we'll post all the information on ICQpodcast.com, so you can obviously take advantage of getting involved in that on the 13th of May. For the coming week, there's a great opportunity for those who are interested in Slow Scan TV. There's an award program working with ORBICRAFT-ZORKIY satellite. So from our release day on Sunday the 7th to the May the 13th, on frequencies we'll post on ICQpodcast.com, they're going to be broadcasting 6 different images in Robot 72 mode. Now, to win a special award prize, you need to receive at least 3 of the images and decode them. Each image must be received at least 70% and have an acceptable quality. The logo and call sign of the station must also be distinguishable. So rules obviously for achieving your award, but as I say, 50% strike rate, and you need 70% of each one of those images as well. So hopefully a great opportunity for those of you who enjoy Slow Scan TV to win this special award. So as I say, that's for the next week from the 7th to the 13th of May. You can win a special ORBICRAFT-ZORKIY award. Right, now we head over to our features episode where we discuss the Rockall Dxpedition. As always, hope you enjoy.
And now what you've all been waiting for, this episode's feature from the ICQ podcast. Hi guys, I'm joined by Emil, DL8JJ, to tell us about the Dxpedition he's about to undertake to Rockall. Now, for those of you who listen to the BBC shipping forecast, you'll hear the area of Rockall, but I don't think many of us know where it is. But before we start asking Emil questions about where it is and how he's doing it, Emil, tell us a bit about yourself, how you got into amateur radio, and why you like doing these Dxpeditions.
Yeah, hello guys, and thank you very much for inviting me. And about all questions, I'm very, very happy to be here and tell about me and of course about us, about my friends and the new big one, the expedition on Rockall Island. But before I was born in Bulgaria, actually I came in from Bulgaria. I studied in Technical University in Sofia, and after that progressed my studies in Germany and Fachhochschule Dieburg. This is not so far from Frankfurt. Now I'm qualified engineer for telecommunication systems and radio and television. I work as a network engineer at the control company. It's also not so far from Frankfurt in Germany. I have scientific degree in computer technology and an up-to-date network-based database systems. I live in Dreieich. This is just 15 kilometers from Frankfurt am Main, and I have 2 hobbies, 2 passions. The first of all, it's the ham radio, and the second one is climbing, mountaineering. And it's really something special for me, because it's not just sport. This is just for me a lifestyle, and very the combination of both, for example, to go on summits on the air or something like this. It's also a great one. I'm a mountain guide, and my free time, my holidays, I take my time to go with groups all over the world and guiding unknown people and unknown places. I was about 13 years in Caucasus in Russia, guiding groups there. I spent 2 years in Kamchatka, so far away. I spent 5 years in Iran, a wonderful country with people and perfectly and interesting seasizing there, culture. Of course, I was last year, and this year I will be on an polar circle with groups, Kyrgyzstan, Kazakhstan. So summits up to 7,000 meters I climbed already. I was in the United States in National Park, in Yosemite National Park, and done El Capitan via Salate Wall a couple of years ago. All that, what I done in the climbing and mountaineering helped me now to start so big adventures like IOTAs, crazy IOTAs like Rockall Island. Of course, with ham radio, it's also special things. I started like a child in Bulgaria with CW. I learned a lot of Morse, and I was young boy and received Lima Zulu 2 Echo November in Bulgaria. I was one of the youngest OMs there that take own call sign. It was 1989. After my studies and come back to Germany, I started to work and studied here. I received DLA JJ in April 2002 extra class. And since there, of course, I have a big dreams and big loves and every idea what I have in my head and heart, I try to realize it, and not just only or alone. So take a friends and go all over the world and do something special and leave perfect memories of that. In my career in CW, it got me about 4 years to reach extreme high-speed club membership with 111 number. It was a lot of work, a hard work, but it was also something like Mount Everest in telegraphy world. And I done many expeditions in different kind. So something like Tangi United, Hotel 44, like many activations from some islands. So it's amazing that what I love and what I want to do. And all that experience, also from big expeditions, like the last one was Djibouti, 5 months before I was there as a CW man, but I started to work in AMA and 2 meters and collected all technical stuff and know-how, and I had activated Djibouti for ever first time over the moon. It was really amazing to do 131 QSOs over the moon. It was really perfect. I use every single moment when I am on an expedition. I'm not going to sleep, or I just sleep 1 or 2 hours a day, and all the rest of the time I play the radio, put stuff together, and so on and so on. That's what I do on also on the expedition. Like it, I saw combination of ham radio and mountaineering gave me the opportunity to go to summits, to activate new summits, first activation of new summits. And so this combination, it's also something great. In Iota Islands, I activated for first time some different islands like Frogadata Island, like Vada Island, and and many more. That's what I do, and it's really something special for me.
Sounds like you're a very, very busy man all the time. And how do you find time to fit all this in? I mean, I don't.
Yeah, it's a good question, but I take the time. So in Germany, we have some words that the people's, most of the people say, "Oh, I don't have time for this or for that," but I say, "Hey, you should take your time." So like today, I was I stand up at 6 o'clock. I was busy with my daughter. After that, I started to work at 8 o'clock. And in my free one hour free time, middle of the day, lunch, I was outside and put some stuff on my EMA antenna in my garden, After that, after the work, I was 3 hours indoor climbing, and then we talk about you or with you about this termin now, and so I just come from climbing, and now speak with you and all other guys that hear us. And after our talking, I will sit on my radio, and the moon is very well in the last days, and I will try to do some interesting EMA contacts. And after that, late night, I will go into bed, take all new ideas, take all what I done today and for the next days in my dream, and will be happy for tomorrow, for the next day. That's what I do, and it's amazing. It's this is the life, and I take time for all things in that life that make the life nicer.
Well, that sounds good. That sounds good. And I'm glad you enjoy the thing. And the most important thing is we have to enjoy amateur radio, and in your case, obviously, climbing. If you don't enjoy things in life, then don't do them, in my book. But so we heard that you're going to do a Dxpedition to Rockall Island. Now, I've had a quick look on the internet, and this is an island which is hardly anything on it. I mean, you couldn't have picked a more unhospitable place, I think, to go and do a Dxpedition. And I think you're going to try and be there for a week. Tell us how you're going to get there and what you're going to try and achieve.
Yeah, Rockall, it's Rockall Island is a dream. Before COVID-19, that was also a dream, and was still a dream. And now it's something shortly before everything will be reality for me, and also for Nobby and Cam. How it started, I saw this island or this rock somewhere in the internet. I say, wow, I want to go there. It's amazing one. For me, it's this is the one of the difficult, I think is most difficult island worldwide, because it's just a rock, a single rock, 25 meters in diameter and 17.1 meters high. When you go on the sea and you have 450 kilometers with the boat, you will not see anything, just a water surface. And suddenly you see a small piece of rock in nowhere. And that's the amazing thing. We have now a big and interesting thing, for example, with Bouvet Island. And for me, Bouvet Island is also very rare. It's rare because it's far, far away from the mainland. But it's the island. It's also a big island. You can go. You can just go left and right. You can put a big tent here or there. You have a beach and so on and so on. It's difficult, of course, but compared to the Rockall, I will tell you, really, Rockall is like really like a Mount Everest. It's not higher. There is no higher point of this. The Rockall Island, I was planned for me, but it was too for COVID-19, but it was too expensive, and it was still a dream for me until I met Nobby last year on ham radio, and a friend of mine, Lima Zulu One Japan Zulu, they a good friend of mine, QSL printer. He will also QSL print for us for the Rockall. 100% donation for us. And he told me, hey, Emil, I have a friend, Nobby, and they plan to go to Rockall Island. You can meet him here and you can talk with him. So it's done. I talked with Nobby, but the group was full 1 year before. And so I say, okay, if I can go with you, that will be great. And 3 months before, he called me and say, Emil, we have a free place if you want. You are the best man for us. Just come with us. And I talked to Cam. Cam also say, okay, it's very well and very important. The most important thing on such expedition like this, to have the real friends with you, and the team must be as a one. It's a one man and everything like a brothers, and put all skills from all people on this small team together and make it happened. That's my meaning about this, and the same meaning it's also from Cam and Nobi. And so I started end of last year or beginning of this year, and we are now 3 people, and we're working in team perfectly every day. So I don't know, 20, 30 emails and talking about everything. Be free to say all meaning and take the best decision for us for the next step, because it's a rare island. Everything what we will take with us, it's essential. So, like I told, perhaps, for example, if we want to eat soap, okay, we can cook the soap. But if we do not have a spoon, then we cannot eat this this spoon. It's a very important that we check all that equipment that we will take it. It's just not only the ham radio equipment, it's just all equipment, beginning from water. Of course, our clothes, everything must be perfect until there. And that's the most interesting thing. We have on the top just perhaps 1.5 meters to 3 meters or 4 meters place that we will be. We have a special tent from Cam. Special firma done it for us. It's so just around about 1.7 meter to 3 meters. And that's everything. We can put this tent together on the rock over there on the top. And I organize a special tent from Black Diamond. This is a hanging tent. You need just one single piece of bolt, and we can hang this tent. It's just 70 centimeter to 2 meters. But it's also the second opportunity for us, for example, when someone of us want going to sleep or play one radio in one of the tents and so on, that we have a little bit more place over there. And also very interesting thing is that how we can put all our stuff from a main boat up to the top, how we can reach the last 10 meters to the rock, how we will reach the last 1 meters and touch the rock, and the climbing over there. I sent 1 month before 40 kilograms of climbing equipment. So we have everything with us. We have bolts, we have climbing carabiner, we have everything. I put also ice tools. Normally, with as a climber, you need something like this in winter when waterfalls will be it's ice freezing, and you climb this ice. But here, it's very sleepy, everything, and perhaps that will be just the only one chance to touch us on the rock and climb to the top and secure the way from the sea surface and until to the top. I sent it also to Cam and Nobi already, so around about 250, 300 meters climbing ropes, so that we will have the chance to secure us when we are on the top, so that nobody will fall down, to have the opportunities to move on the rock left and right, to go up and down to the surface, and so on and so on. We will also have a small boat from the main boat, and we will see how we can reach the last meters from the main boat until to the rock, climb up, secure, and then pulling up all our equipment, water. Generators. We have 2 generators, Honda i10, and we will We want to use 2 stations. Both of them are Yaesu FT857D with 100 watts. We want to put, of course, 2 multi-band antennas with the bandpass filters, of course, and we will going to work from 40 meters to 10 meters. And friends of mine give me also a small antenna for 2 meters, and we can try also to do some 2 meters QSOs. In the last 200 years, just only 110 people reach on this rock, but just only 5 of them stay overnight there. You can imagine how hard it will be. For us, our dream, it's more and far away from, no, not so far away from the last people, from the people that done this. We want to do more. Nobby and I, we want to stay up to 1 week and play the radio 24/7. We have just 10 days with the boat because we rent the boat with the skipper for 10 days. It's extremely costs for that. We pay about 1,300 UK lira per day for the boat. You can imagine how much money it's this just only for the boat. But if we reach the island in the first 2 days, 2-3 days maximum, and put all equipment over there on the top, then we will have so round about 5 to 6, 7 days. And after that, Nobby and I will put down our equipment and go back with the boat to the mainland. Cam have extremely interesting idea. There is a Nick Hancock. It's a very exciting guy. They spent over 40 days, about 40 days on the island. It was a Greenpeace, so something like special social project. He done it 10 years before. And Cam have the idea to top this world record and stay up to 50 days there. And we as a team will try to do this. And Cam, of course, it's not just to be there. He wants also to spend some money or raise the money for veterans and so on and so on. Also very interesting project. But now we need, of course, so many support. We need some more money to fix everything until the expedition, to be sure that everything is fine, to pay taxes, to pay. So, for example, when I sent these 40 kilograms, I don't know, we pay something around 350 euro for that. It's just my own equipment, but it's Brexit, it's 40 kilograms. You pay around about 100 euro just for shipping there. It's one way. And so around 200 euro on more for customs. And that's just one small point of the expedition that we should and we must manage. When I say it's of course not like Bouvet, that you should drive on Bouvet, I think 2,500 kilometers, something like this. We have only 450 kilometers, but this water that we will have in the North Atlantic Ocean is extremely hard, because we have to manage up to 5 or 10 or more meters big wells. The new record wave high was recorded in the North Atlantic on February 4th, 2013, and it was measure of 62.3 feet. This is equivalent to 19 meters. Well, you can imagine how hard is to reach the island. But okay, we are very positive, and we go step by step, and we will see what happened at the end of the day. And now we have until 26th of May. We have to fix many things about the equipment, about the antennas, and so on. We want to be, Nobby will be working SSB, I will be working CW and SSB. Both station, we want also to manage FT8, of course. And now we fix all software, how we can manage, how we will do manage. Everything should be perfect at now. On this moment, everything must be tested, everything must be care. Every single cable that we will take with us must be care about, and so on and so on, so that when we are there, that we will be happy with the equipment. And so, like a friend of mine say, all others, it's just God's hands. So that's the main goal that we will have here. But there is, like you see, many challenges. The trip, the last 10 meters to the rock, touch the rock, and first 1 meters, climb up to the top, pulling out the stuff, arrange the camp with all security and all stuff. We should eat every day. We should care about our eating. We should care about the water. Stay overnight for a long time, not just only for me and Novi, also to secure for camp. To have, of course, our gear, our clothes are very, very also very important, that we have proper clothes for the water. The ham radio gear, the ham radio power management, the antennas, and the last one is the operation, because the operation started after all that goals are done successfully, and then it's easy going, and then it's just fun to be 24/7 on the air, as good as possible, and manage pileups. This will be something like to reach the top of the big mountains. So for me, and also for my friends, that's the point of view.
Yeah, it sounds really interesting. Now, when are you planning to be on Rockall? What dates?
So I will fly on 25th of May at the evening. The tickets I bought the tickets already. On 25th of the evening, late night, I will be in Glasgow. I will sleep in the bank on the airport. No hotels, nothing. Just sit there and sleep until the next morning. 26th of May, I will meet the Nobi and Cam, and we will drive 40 kilometers to the beach, put everything into the boat, and start it if the weather is fine on 26th of May. So if the weather is good, the wind are good, it will take around about 16 to 36 hours to reach the rock. So I mean 3 days more, something so round about the first, I don't know what is the data now, I should see the exactly, but so April, May, June. So we have so round about 28 or 29 of May. If everything working well, we should be on the air. Stay the week until, I don't know, perhaps Friday or something like this, the 2nd of June, and then start the trip back. So the plan. What happened? We will see.
Yeah, you can't always plan, but sounds like you've got a very, very good plan. Now, say from my point of view, I found this very fascinating, and I thank you for your time of coming and doing it. Do you have a website, Emil, where people can see what you're up to?
Yes, we have a website, and there is also all information. It's Rockall Dxpedition, like one word, rockallexped.com. The friends in UK done this site. There is the information about us, the information about the expedition. But most important thing is also there. It's also a link to for the donation. Really, we need some support now that we will fix everything at the first time for the expedition, to put enough money to raise the money for the boat. Everything what's if something come on the top, all that money, it's we don't want to make money for that. We are radio amateurs, and our dreams are big. That's what I want to say, because it's very important for me and for us. My dream and the dream of my friends are to go there and make the people happy from the other side of the pileup. The last 10, 12 years, there was no expedition on that island. That's because it's hard, because it's rare. And now we have the opportunities to make a history, and we need some donation for that. You see, to buy everything, to take also a cheaper, or to have the opportunities to transport all our stuff from Camp QTH down to the beach, and so on and so on. But just take a look at rockallexped.com and see, of course, in curez.com, there is our call sign. The call sign is Mike 0, United Kingdom, Italy. Islands. This will be the call sign that we will use from there. Or you can go, of course, on myqrz.com and DLHJJ. There's also a link to my PayPal if some people want to support us, or like I told, direct in our website in rockallexped.com.
Well, that sounds really great, Emil. Really great. Well, I wish you every success, and I thank you for coming along tonight and giving us this interview.
Thanks.
And when we release, I'm sure everybody will be really fascinated with how you're going to do this. So thank you very much for giving me this interview, Emil.
Thank you very much too. And just for the people, we have a second part of the presentation about the Rockall with some pictures, perhaps some videos and so on 16th of May. I think it's 18 o'clock UTC time. We will put information on our webpage and on Facebook and so on, that if some people want to come and not just talking and see what we are doing and how we are doing shortly before we start the expedition, that will be great.
Yeah. Well, that'll be good. And as I say, that's I wish you every success.
Thank you.
And hopefully we'll hear from you at another time saying how much of a success it really was. So wish you every success going forward. Thank you very much, Emil.
Thank you very much.
Well, everybody, I really hope you enjoyed our feature on the Expo to Rockall. And as I say, hopefully you'll work that station, as a DX through the month. So certainly check that out and keep an ear out for that call sign, Mike 0 Uniform Kilo India. Now, we love your feedback, and obviously, hearing about what you think about the hobby, etc. And one of our news stories has recently lit up a lot of feedback. So it was in relation to vacuum tubes making a comeback, and Stephen Waters mentions that on that story, the 300B is a high-end audio valve and not a radio valve, not the 807s or the 6146 or the 6L6s or any other RFLs. If you want to see why the 300B is suddenly being made in the USA, we can have a look at some links he's given us. So we'll put those in the show notes today. And there's loads of dealers, etc., that work on this sort of stuff, covering things like vintage items, radios, TVs, hi-fis, LPs, etc. So yeah, we'll certainly pop a link into that, so anyone who's interested can have a look at that, those traders, and see from there. Alex mentions that the 12AX7 is also used as an RF driver in vacuum tube radios. As I remember, my old Drake used one as a driver. Either the Yaesu FT101 or the Kenwood TS520 used it as a driver. I forget which one. That's Alex, Whiskey 5 Alpha Lima X-ray. Bill Phelan, November 2 Kilo Papa Echo, said that story made his day, and he asked, does it or did it have anything to do with the rebirth of vinyl? Interesting, Bill. Stat I heard the other day is that in 2022 vinyl outsold CDs. Now, I'm not quite sure how many CDs were sold to outsell for vinyl to outsell it, but yeah, vinyl's on a bit of a comeback as well, as we say. And then last one on this topic, Charles says valve manufacturing has already started again in the UK and needs supporting as well. And as I say, gives us a link, as I say, that also was mentioned by Stephen at the start there as well. So we'll put those couple of links into the show notes for you, and so you can check us there. So Dad, great to get that feedback on that tube making story that we covered in the last episode.
Certainly is, son. And the interesting thing is I started my electronics education, or formal electronics education, put it that way, in the early 70s. And the course I did was the last course to involve valves or tubes, depending on which side of the pond you are. So I've grown up with them, and they have a very, very, very good usage. There are lots of good things about tubes, and it's nice to see them having a comeback. And hi-fi people certainly like tube amplifiers. They tell me it gives a nice warmer sound. Now, one of the things that I try never to ever repair for anybody is a guitar amplifier, because often their valve or tube technology, there's just not something I'm worried about, but they often have leaky capacitors which give the amplifier a bit of distortion. And when you go in and put the amplifier back to manufacturer spec, the musician says, "Oh, it don't sound right." No, it does. You've just been used to it being distorted because you've got leaky capacitors and you're overdriving the thing. But hey, that's another story. But great to have valve or tube technology, depending which side of the pond you are, coming back into operation.
Yeah, certainly. And next bit of feedback is in relation to our friend Ed's DD5 Lima Papa's feature in the last episode on HF control features, and Sandip Echo India 7 India Juliet Bravo, and wanted to pass on his thanks to Ed for doing the feature. Said it came at an excellent time when I was thinking of investing in a HF rig. All points noted, and will definitely read in the manual. So he said hi. So he said thanks from Sandip. So yeah, Sandip, thanks for dropping that line, and I say we'll certainly pass on your thanks there to Ed for doing that feature for us, which proves the point, Dad, the fact no matter how long you've been in the hobby, or would it be, there's always something to learn or ideas are forgotten, etc. That, as I say, is always great for a refresher.
Certainly is, Colin. And one of the sayings that people hear me say many times, and it still holds true: the more you know, the more you realise just how little you know. This hobby is so big and it's interesting. All I'd say to anybody is keep an open mind and enjoy the hobby.
Very true, very true. And last comment we picked up was Trevor, Mike 5 Alpha Kilo Alpha, and he replied in relation to our news story about Ofcom plan of work. And he says in Australia, foundation license holders are allowed to remotely operate their station from a phone or tablet, use any type of transmitter they have built themselves, and supervise an unlicensed person on the air. In Belgium, the foundation holders can run 50 watts on the 144/430 megahertz bands, which has significantly increased activities in these otherwise all too quiet VHF UH bands. And he says, strange in the UK, are not allowed to do these things. Foundation holders can only build used transmitters from a kit, and he suggests this anomaly needs correcting. So I know you've trained a lot of foundation holders through the system over the years. What's your thoughts in maybe getting foundation licensees access to those types of uses?
It's an interesting one, Colin, and that's the thing. I mean, in fairness, different countries have looked at how they allocate frequency use for amateur people. It's one of those. If I was being hard about it, I think that we give the UK foundation license holders too many frequencies, and that's not me picking a fight. I go along with why it's done. I go along with the usage of 10 watts in the UK as the license limit for a foundation. However, VHF and UHF have become quieter, and lots of amateurs say that. So, you know, it's horses for courses. I think what would be nice is either we have a common license system worldwide, which is never going to happen, let's be honest, or maybe we look at putting a fourth tier of licensing in the UK for VHF and UHF only. And I know that's been mooted a number of times by other people. Yeah, that could increase the VHF and UHF. But you have to work within the parameters, Trevor, and I agree with you. And that some people have niceties that we don't have in the UK. I believe on certain frequencies in the States, a technician can operate 1.5 kilowatts. But there you go. That's an interesting one, Colin.
No, it certainly is. And so, look, again, the most important thing is it opens up the discussion. There's a lot of talk about this stuff about, does giving more access or less access, or making more tiers or less tiers, etc. Does that increase, the number of people entering the hobby and solves maybe some of the recruitment problems or the churn in the hobby? I think all things should be considered and thought about, as I say, across the board. So, no, look, it's good to get Trevor's perspective, but not only that, as well as the comparisons, as well as he understands them from around the world. So it's fantastic. Now, you can get your thoughts, as I say, across to us in many, many ways. You can contact us via our Contact Us page on our email. You can pop a comment on the end of one of our news stories on the website, or, as I say, from any way of contact us to YouTube, the social media sites, the Twitters, etc. We do our best to pick them all up and then obviously bring them into the show for you. So, feel free to reach out to us, and we'd love to hear your thoughts on, say, what's going on in the hobby and, obviously what's going on in this episode. And certainly would love to hear of anybody that, say, has enjoyed working the Rockall Dxpedition. And as I say, it'd be great to hear our listeners and, of their experiences of working that we covered in our feature. Well, okay. Well, we'd just like to round up by thanking our monthly subscription donors for supporting us in our episode. This one, episode number 402. You can help out, as I say, and show your value for what we do in a very simple way. We ask you to convert the value you got from our show today, turn it into a monetary figure, and then go to icqpodcast.com/donate. And say, well, everything you send our way goes towards helping us for our running costs and improving what we do for you, etc. along the way there. So, as I say, a great way of getting yourself, as I mentioned, involved in what we do in the show. We'd like to thank Chris, Mike 0 Tango Charlie Hotel, Martin, Mike 0 Sierra Golf Lima, Frank, Kilo 4 Foxtrot Mike Hotel, Bill, Whiskey Charlie 3 Bravo, and Leslie, Golf 0 Charlie India Bravo, for taking part in the News Roundtables, and really do appreciate you being involved there. All right, that about sums up everything for us for episode 402, Dad. Of course, the only thing left to do now is to look after the boss, Mrs. B, and make her a cup of tea and maybe a nice little treat as we start the weekend.
Certainly will, Colin. And yes, Mrs. B and I are about to have a cup of tea, which is good news, and we'll sort out a treat for ourselves. So that's real good. So we're on our way to 500, Colin. We've 402. That's 403 in a fortnight's time, isn't it?
Exactly. So we'll catch up with you all again in a fortnight's time for episode 403. And in the meantime, we'd love to hear from you on anything we covered in this episode. And say, drop us a line and let us know. Well, bid you all 73s going and can you enjoy the hobby?
Yeah, 73.